All right, so I've been eating a meat and fruit animal-based diet for over 100 days now. It's been several months, but I wanted to talk about some things I've learned along the way because it wasn't an instant success. It didn't immediately give me the energy, the mental clarity, the testosterone that I wanted. And so I had to learn how to adjust the diet along the way. There's 6 or 7 things I had to adjust. 6 or 7 lessons I want to talk about that will essentially improve the diet to the point where you feel fantastic with your energy and your mental health, everything. So these are some meals that I ate recently. Just made a video about what I eat in a day, and basically these are the meals that make me feel fantastic. And the first lesson that's really the most important thing that I can tell you is that your carb intake should always, this is like a golden rule. You should get this like tattooed on you somewhere. Always eat twice as many carbs as protein. I cannot believe it took me so long into like month 3 on this diet for me to discover that the reason I was feeling mid the whole time was because I wasn't eating enough carbs and I was overeating protein and fat, because everyone in the animal-based meat and fruit type of, diet space, they all love their protein and fat. They all love their animal foods. They're glazing the protein, they're glazing the fat, but they're kind of adding in carbs as an afterthought. Like when you look at a meat and fruit diet, meat is like the focus, and then it's like, a small amount of fruit. It should really be the opposite. It should be like the fruit with like a small amount of meat. That should really be the way the diet is focused, because when you eat twice as many carbs as protein, you actually decrease stress hormones. When you overeat fat and protein, you increase cortisol, you increase glucagon, and you slow down your insulin spikes, which keeps insulin elevated. You can basically make yourself diabetic, which is what I did by eating too much fat and protein, because your insulin spikes are so slow and you'll put on so much fat. If you eat too much protein, too much of the red meat, the eggs, the butter, I used to drink like half a bottle of heavy cream in one sitting. None of that worked. I thought I needed to increase animal foods to feel better. I didn't. I needed to basically lower my stress hormones by lowering my protein and fat. Protein specifically, you need 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Don't let anybody tell you that it's 1 gram. 0.8 is already a little bit much. It's already playing it safe, so don't say, oh, I need to round it up. You don't. If you eat any more than this, your body is going to start using that protein for fuel. It's going to turn it into glucose, because your body needs glucose at all times. And so if you don't give it enough glucose, which you're probably not if you're eating too much protein, it's going to start turning that protein into glucose. So you might say, oh, that's fine, right? That's what carnivores do. That's why they can survive on no carbs. But the problem is that is a very stressful process. It raises cortisol, it raises glucagon. What's interesting is that if you've heard of GLP-1, I saw a commercial for this the other day, and I looked it up, and GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. What this does essentially, this is really interesting, is essentially you inject GLP-1 into your body, and it suppresses glucagon. So the weight loss drug that everybody's talking about now actually suppresses glucagon. It suppresses the thing that excessive protein intake increases. But the natural GLP-1 is to eat a 2-to-1 carb to protein ratio, because carbs suppress glucagon. So if you want to lose fat, if you want to improve your thyroid, which is what GLP-1 helps with, right? Because it suppresses this hormone that is terrible for your thyroid. Glucagon slows down your thyroid. It suppresses glucagon, but you can just naturally do that by eating way more carbs than protein. If you are on a traditional animal-based meat and fruit diet, you're gonna be basically, increasing your stress hormones, slowing down your thyroid, and that's why I felt mid for months, when I could have naturally just, decreased my glucagon, decreased my cortisol by eating way more carbs than protein. This is the golden rule. The golden rule. Now let me give you an example, okay, of the meals I used to eat. So this meal right here is what I ate before I discovered this 2-to-1 carb to protein rule. I would have a bunch of eggs, and this probably has like 4 tablespoons of butter in it. That's half a stick. That's like a ton of fat, maybe like 50 grams of fat in these eggs right here. Then I had some cheese, which is even more fat, more protein. And of course, I just had a small little smattering of raspberries right there. Not optimal whatsoever. You can see that carbs are an afterthought here. And this is why when I ate this meal, the rest of the day or the rest of the morning, and with my other meals that were very similar to this, I felt mid. I did not have mental clarity. My brain fog was crazy. And I didn't have energy. I didn't have testosterone. All right. And I was putting on body weight. I was putting on body fat. Then, fast forward to now, this is what an average meal looks like for me now. This is after I discovered this, increased carbs to protein rule for feeling fantastic. And now I have raspberries. I have the eggs, maybe with, a lot less fat in the eggs. I have, still some cheese. But I'm emphasizing the carbs with a banana and some orange juice. Maybe I put some honey in that orange juice. As you can see, carbs are way more of a priority now, and I might not actually be hitting that 2-to-1 carb to protein ratio, but this was early on, and now I'm definitely hitting that with like some of these meals right here. These are easily like 2-to-1, 3-to-1 carb to protein ratios. That's what you need to do, and immediately you'll notice a difference after you eat a meal with those carb ratios. You will immediately feel better. All right. Lesson number 2, I shouldn't really have to even tell you this because it should be fucking common sense, but do not put your body in a starvation state by intermittent fasting. Do not, okay? When you fast, your body is going to increase cortisol and it's going to slow down thyroid because logically, when your body says, oh, you don't have food, obviously it's not going to say, oh, let's expend more calories by increasing our thyroid, by increasing metabolism. No, it's going to decrease your thyroid to adapt to the fact that you don't have any fucking food and you're basically starving. So eat on waking, because another reason that this really increases cortisol is because when you wake up, your cortisol naturally rises. You might already know this, but it stays elevated until you eat. Your circadian rhythm relies on when you eat to lower cortisol. So you want to eat within 1 hour of waking up, okay? Breakfast is your number one priority. For me, I had breakfast. I woke up at 8 this morning, and I had breakfast at like 8:30. Then my cortisol went way down, especially since you're probably eating like 100 grams of carbs, hopefully, from fruit and honey with this meal. You want to immediately lower that cortisol in the morning. However, if you skip breakfast and you start fasting or you don't eat many carbs with your breakfast, your cortisol will stay elevated. It might dip when you eat a little bit, but it's going to basically stay elevated and then slow down thyroid, which is the engine of your body. You don't want that at all. Lesson 3, avoid these foods at all costs. Polyunsaturated fat. This is in things like seed oils, but I'm not just one of those seed oil haters, TikTok cutting board influencers. It's also in eggs, surprisingly. Eggs have 1 gram of PUFA per egg, even if it's pasture raised. 1 gram of polyunsaturated fat, which is highly inflammatory, basically going to, destroy the mitochondria of your cells. It's really complicated science shit. But essentially, when you reduce polyunsaturated fat consumption and you increase saturated fat, and specifically saturated fat, but also monounsaturated fat. These are the fats that we've been eating for our entire evolution. And up until recently, it was the only fats we ate, and we had no heart disease, no issues with any, chronic, diabetes or anything like that. Then we added polyunsaturated fat, and our diseases went through the roof. But anyways, saturated fat specifically is going to help your energy tremendously. And of course, eggs have 1 gram of polyunsaturated fat per egg, which is not that much. So you can still have eggs in maybe like 4 to 6 quantities. 4 to 6 eggs per day is still going to not be very much polyunsaturated fat. But don't eat like 10 eggs, 12 eggs a day like I was eating, because then you're just including like a fucking tablespoon of canola oil in your fucking diet. Seed oils, eggs, salmon, so like fatty fish, bacon. A lot of the carnivores, they hate on seed oils and they eat a bunch of bacon. It's the same shit. Nuts and seeds, obviously you wouldn't really be eating that, I don't think. But you just got to be careful because it's in a lot more things than you realize. It's not just in the seed oils. Starches are going to be suboptimal for blood sugar. They're going to spike your blood sugar because they're pure glucose more than the fruit and the honey will, which is surprising because you might think sugar is way more blood sugar, is going to give you way more blood sugar fluctuations because it's sweet, it's sugar from fruit and honey. But I'm telling you right now, starches, when they're pure glucose, you'll feel the difference. Like you'll feel more brain fog and you'll put on fat more easier. It's better to avoid the rice and potatoes and everything if you just want to basically feel your best at all times. Certain dairy, for me, like milk, is going to be really problematic, and like small amounts of cheese are the only real dairy I would include in my diet, in this meat and fruit diet. Because you'll just feel better and you'll probably lose more fat if you have less dairy. A lot of you guys love the dairy, but I'm telling you right now, for most people, the casein, protein, and the lactose are going to be problematic. I should have also included I forgot to include this lesson, but you need to be including collagen in your diet. Collagen, also salt, and also vitamin D. These are the supplements I would recommend on this diet. First of all, a lot of you guys I know for a fact are overlooking collagen. I know you are not eating collagen. You're eating a bunch of beef, a bunch of muscle meat. But what happens when you eat mostly muscle meat or entirely muscle meat is that the amino acids in these foods are inflammatory. With glycine, with proline, with the amino acids in collagen, because in nature, what's interesting is that a cow is 50% collagen. 50% of the meat is collagen in this cow right here. So we evolved to eat the bones and the fucking connective tissue. So if you can get meat with more connective tissue, or just collagen peptides or gelatin, you will feel better in terms of your energy. You will sleep better. You'll have lower inflammation, lower cortisol. That's really important, and it's something that a lot of people overlook. Salt also reduces stress hormones. You're probably not getting enough salt. I would recommend including a few pinches of salt. Like, I'll wake up in the morning, have a pinch of salt with water, have a pinch of salt with each of my meals. It's really important because it actually reduces stress hormones. Sodium reduces stress hormones and plays a role in energy production. Okay, so you really need to be locked in on salt and also vitamin D. For me, it's winter right now. Ideally, you could get it from the sun, but I'm doing 5K IU per day because you really can't afford to not be getting vitamin D. I do it with K2 as well. Okay, so that's just a random thing I wanted to include. And then lesson 4, you have to learn lots of ways to hit 300 grams of carbs, because a lot of you guys are fucking stingy as shit with the carbs, okay? You're eating like I was eating back in the day when I would have like a few raspberries with my meal or a few little bites of honey. No. You need to hit hundreds of grams of carbs, like 100 grams of carbs per meal if you want to feel your best, okay? Your body like even at rest with no extra anything, your body requires 150 grams of carbs per day for central nervous system activity. What this means is this is the minimum, right? Otherwise, you're putting your body in a stress state. If you're a complete like potato, this is how many carbs you need. But if you're a normal functioning human, you need like at least maybe like 100 grams more than this, 200 grams more than this. So 300 should really be your target no matter who you are, because this is like bare minimum to like survive. Otherwise, your body starts getting it from protein and getting it from all the other shit you're eating. And that's very stressful, raises stress hormones, slows down thyroid. The way you tell your body that it's not in a state of starvation and you increase your energy and feel fantastic is by hitting 300 grams of carbs per day, okay? Now, you need to learn lots of ways to hit these carbs, because if you're eating a bunch of little berries, a bunch of little melons, nothing too crazy, you're not going to hit carbs. You're not going to hit your carb goals because these are low-calorie foods. So recently I've been hopping on the smoothie strat. This is very, very enjoyable, because what you do is you just put a bunch of frozen fruits. I'll put some mango, some berries in a actually, let me show you an example here. This is a smoothie I made the other day. I put a bunch of berries, mango, and I put either some water or orange juice in there. I think I put water in this one. And then some collagen peptides, right? You need to include that collagen in your diet. So I put some collagen peptides powder in there, along with a bunch of honey, and you can just really just abuse the honey and abuse the smoothie strat to get like at least like an easy 50, 60, 70 grams of carbs per day. Now, juices, okay? These are going to be liquid calories. You might say, oh, I'm scared of insulin spikes. I'm scared of all that. I'm telling you right now, you will feel fantastic when you drink large amounts of orange juice. You're not going to get blood sugar fluctuations. The insulin responses to these foods, since they're easily digested and they have fructose and they're sweet, so they tell your body to release insulin quickly, it's basically going to give you more energy, more mental clarity. There's no downside to eating more of these liquid sugars, these liquid calories, okay? They're very easily digested and they're very easy to get lots of carbs in. The priority is more carbs. If you hit that 2-to-1 carb to protein ratio with orange juice, you're going to just feel fantastic. Calorie dense fruit, all right? You can't be eating the low calorie fruit. You can eat them sometimes, but make sure you're prioritizing things like, I don't know, bananas, dates, grapes. These are fruits that are high calorie. Dried mango. I like some dried mango every now and then. And then you gotta get some honey, of course, the raw honey. You gotta put that shit on everything, like on literally everything, bro. Your meat, I put it in my orange juice. Sometimes I'll just eat it straight up. I actually have some honey right here from my local neighborhood. Actually, let me get a little honey snack right here, because I'm about to go lift in a minute. I'll just eat that shit straight out the jar, bro, and I have so much more energy. I feel fantastic, okay? You have to be hitting these hundreds of grams of carbs. Lesson 5, your diet does not matter if you are not sleeping consistently before 10 p.m., okay? I'm telling you this right now. Pre-midnight deep sleep is so important for your energy, for your mental clarity. You can have a perfect diet, but you will still feel kind of mid if you're going to bed consistently at like 11, like 12. You're not getting that pre-midnight deep sleep, which is where testosterone is released. Your brain repairs itself. You will feel so much better when you sleep early, okay, consistently. Your diet does not mean shit if this is not dialed in. All right, lesson 6, maintain 10 to 12% body fat for high test. This is pretty straightforward because if you're eating a clean meat and fruit diet, you're eating meat, you're eating maybe some eggs, and then you're including collagen, of course, but you're eating fruit juice, and honey, butter. That's like 5 foods. You can't gain body fat unless you're overdoing it with the fat and the protein. So what you want to do is really just stick to that 2-to-1 carb to protein ratio because, like we said, the natural GLP-1 for weight loss, you don't even need to inject GLP-1, spend hundreds of dollars on that shit. You just need to eat this carb to protein ratio. It is that simple. When it's clean carbs and, quality protein, this shit just works. And you will decrease glucagon, which will improve thyroid. And what the fuck? When your thyroid improves, you'll lose fat easier. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm at like 13 to 14% body fat. But you just need to make sure you're increasing carbs to actually lose body fat. All the propaganda about, oh, carbs will make you fat, insulin spikes make you fat. That's complete bullshit. They've obviously never tried to eat clean carbs with a 2-to-1 carb to protein ratio. Fruit and honey, you can't put on fat. Also, you need to lower your fat intake to become more insulin sensitive. When you have lower fat from saturated or whatever fat it is, from butter, from fatty ground beef, whatever it is, when you eat less of it, you have better insulin signaling, okay? Unless you're very lean, you don't need to be eating 40% of your calories from fat. You need maybe, oh, it made an error there. But you need maybe like 20% fat if you want to lose body fat. Because when you're decreasing the fat intake, you actually have better insulin spikes that go up and down really quickly. You become more insulin sensitive. Your body produces energy better. You'll feel the difference. Like if you eat like 50 grams of fat, like half a stick of butter in a meal versus like just 1 tablespoon of butter in a meal, and you have equal amounts of carbs and protein, the meal with less fat is going to give you more energy, mental clarity. You'll feel less sluggish because your insulin spike is going to be way slower. It's going to be like this, and it's going to stay elevated if you are eating tons of fat every meal. So make yourself more insulin sensitive, and you'll also eat less calories. Not that, restricting calories is the best way to lose weight, but it basically makes you more insulin sensitive. And of course, you don't want to be eating like 4,000 calories a day if you want to lose fat. Avoid polyunsaturated fat at all costs. Again, highly inflammatory. It's going to be the number one way to destroy your thyroid and the number one way to put on fat. So make sure you're not eating too many eggs. You're not eating any restaurants that cook in seed oils. You're not eating bacon. You're not eating salmon. All right. I know Paul Saladino the other day. I watched his video and he was promoting Costco salmon. Like he was doing a Costco video and he said, "Oh, buy this salmon for cheap or whatever." Suboptimal. Omega-3s are not better than omega-6s. In fact, they might even be worse. It's all polyunsaturated fat. It's all going to make you, low metabolism, low thyroid. Suboptimal, okay? Lesson 7. All right, so there's 6 or 7 lessons I want to talk about, all right? Lesson 7 is avoid stressful activities. If you're doing a bunch of runs, stop it. Stop doing the intense cardio. That's complete bullshit, bro. It's genuinely the whole point of cardio is to raise stress hormones. Like, if you ever wondered, why does running help your cardio? Why does running get you more in shape? Like, what does that even mean? Like, getting in shape, what does that even mean? Basically, your body is adapting to stress to the point where it's slowing down its energy so that you're performing less, or you're expending less energy for the same amount of time. So that's the reason, marathon runners can run a really long distance, is because they've stressed their body over and over again to the point where their body slows, its energy expenditure down, and they can run for longer periods of time. That's not a good thing. That's going to slow down your thyroid. That's going to increase stress hormones chronically. You don't want to be running. You want to still be exercising. You want to still be moving. But there's a difference between doing a super intense run at one point in your day and then sitting the rest of the day versus like walking throughout the day, not sitting for too long. Me, for example, I'm going to go outside after this, and then I'm going to go hit a lift. You need to be moving. It's not that exercise is a medicine. This is what a lot of people don't understand. Exercise is not a medicine. Sitting down is a poison. Okay, so stop with the intense cardio. This is going to make you feel worse in the long term. Cold showers. The whole benefit of cold showers, just like cardio, is that it increases stress hormones. That's why people say, oh, I feel more alert after I get out the cold shower. Your adrenaline is up. Your cortisol is up from the cold shower. Stop doing that. Stop. You're going to slow down your thyroid. Okay? You never want to do anything that the whole point of it is to increase stress hormones. Like there's some things that increase stress hormones, maybe like a lift, a heavy lift will increase some stress hormones, but there's a benefit besides that, which is the testosterone, the muscle growth, right? The benefit isn't the stress hormones. With cardio and with cold showers, the benefit is the stress hormones. Also, something that's really stressful, that's decreasing your testosterone, increasing cortisol, that a lot of you guys don't even realize, is staying indoors, okay? I am recording this indoors because it's fucking freezing outside and I can't sit down outside, but I'm going to go outside for a large part of my day today, and I'm going to move, I'm going to walk, I'm going to be in nature, which is way less stressful. Actually, in Japan, they did some studies where they found out that being in nature by itself reduces cortisol and makes you feel, or makes people healthier on its own, just being in green spaces. And also being on the internet, you get a slow drip of cortisol you don't even realize. But I'm telling you, get off the internet and go outside, okay? So at the end of the day, these are all the things I learned. 100 days of eating meat and fruit, and I learned a lot. All right, so yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully that helps.